You're on.
Maybe we had an interruption, but Tim was just telling us a little bit about himself, kids, and then what brought him to Jackson. So,
Yeah, so as I was saying, most people know me as Donette's husband. I do have 3 children. Judd with his wife Amanda, who live in Dallas, with my 2 grandchildren, Evie and Harper. Daughter Anna Kate, who lives in Nicaragua right now, and Griffin, who is returned back home, who's now staying with us. So, I came to Jackson about 20 years ago to start working at Coffeyville Medical Clinic.
Really?
Yep. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I always wanted to do rural health. And I graduated from school, and that came available. And so I came down and was there a couple years, and then I got a call one day out of the blue from a fellow named Sid Crosby.
Sid.
Yep. And he said, hey, have you ever thought about working in Jackson? Would you like to work for us? And I thought about it and prayed about it and have been thinking about some things at the time, and I thought it was just maybe divine providence, and came to Family Medical and started working about 20 years ago or so. So been doing that ever since.
So you're a nurse practitioner.
I'm a nurse practitioner.
And you work here in Jackson, and you've seen probably a huge array of things. You've been a Christian that whole time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You actually, this is interesting. You actually told me earlier that you've only been without a beard since you were 18 for 3 weeks, 3
Yes.
total weeks.
Yep.
It's a wonderful beard. I know you're proud of it.
Yep.
All bearded men rejoice with you. And they are the trend now. I don't know what that is about. But,
Yes.
So, Carrie, if you're listening, most men these days have beards.
Yes.
Please let me grow mine back.
It makes you feel manly. It's good. It vilifies who I am as a man. So
Although I have heard it's a good catch for coronavirus.
I think of it more as a filter. I think it filters out the virus.
Yeah,
So
okay, good.
yeah.
So here's something that's interesting, is that we were talking about this earlier. Initially, we were thinking about being able to interview Bonnie Gibbons, who's a licensed professional counselor.
Yes.
She was unable to come today, but we wanted to talk through this issue. I think, and I think you're a perfect candidate for this, because I think with all this coronavirus stuff, especially as it's spreading, people are really nervous. People, the country is very on edge. And there's a lot of I don't know, anxiety, I guess, about the whole state of affairs. So I guess I want to ask you, first of all, what do you make of that? I mean, what do you make of that in Jackson? Do you see that in Jackson? Do you see that kind of worry here in our community? And then just what do you make in general of the national, maybe global, I don't know, if fear is the right word? I mean, global sort of anxiety about the whole thing.
That's like the big, huge question to which there are a million answers. I don't think there's any one right answer to that. So far as in Jackson, I do see some anxiety coming through the office, I think.
Because medical workers are...
About that, yeah.
I read some statistic recently where you guys are more likely to be exposed on some level just because you see sick people,
Yeah. We are, I certainly ask people, please, if you need to cough, please don't cough in my face and those type of things. So, please don't cough in my face if you can help it. But me personally, I'm not overwhelmed with anxiety and fear. I think there's a lot of unknown about this virus. If you read, which I do, I read a pretty good bit, try and look at a lot of the medical data that comes out and see world-renowned experts that give pretty widely varied opinions about how many people this will affect, who will it affect. And then I try and put some common sense to the numbers so that I don't get overwhelmed by those. For example, let's say there's 10 people in Jackson right now that have it. We don't know that. We don't know of any cases. When I left the office Friday, we were not aware of any cases in Jackson, Alabama, that were positive for the virus. We've tested a few that have been negative. That being said, hypothetically, let's say there were 10, but they've not been tested. So on Friday, we had none. but actually we had 10. But let's say tomorrow we get new tests and we find those 10. Then the news says, oh my gosh, Jackson has blown up. They've gone from 0 to 10. Well, we didn't really go from 0 to 10. We just found the 10 because we had the test.
Yeah.
So some of that data is like that, and you do have to understand that the news is the news. Please keep that in mind. People are humans, and they do tend to have their own opinions and slants and, unfortunately, agendas on these things, and that's unavoidable because of humans. So.
Yeah, and it seems like so much is unknown about this virus. All we really know is it's behaving like a very aggressive contagion. If that's the
Yes.
word.
Yeah.
So we don't know. We're still learning about it. And again, I think that gives people. I mean, I think it gives people maybe a justifiable warrant to have a little bit a raised level of worry about things, maybe. So here's what I want to transition just away from that just for a second.
Sure.
Because in your clinical work, right, you do deal with the mechanics of the body.
Yes.
I mean, you're trained, to think through biology and chemistry and all that. But my guess is, and we talked a little bit about this before, but my guess is you also see people that are dealing with like very intense, I guess, what's the right word, symptoms of depression.
Sure.
Like they come in and there's nothing necessarily, they don't have strep throat, they don't have high fever.
Right.
But they come in saying, I feel, I don't know what the symptoms are, but extremely depressed or anxious, you might say. And so, is that fair? Do you see people that come through like that in your practice? I mean, you see that probably pretty regularly. Is it a daily thing?
Almost every day.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
So addressing this from like a Christian perspective, and you don't have to name names, but
Sure.
I want to ask you just because Tim is also very involved in our church on deacon board. So, would you say that depression can be or is even something that Christians deal with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Not 100% of Christians are depressed.
No. Maybe 90.
but it's actually something. So unpack that for me just for a little bit, because I might have told you maybe even, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago that if you're a Christian and you're depressed, it's because you have some sin in your life, you have some unhidden immorality or some unknown or some hidden immorality that you are hiding, and it's like you're guilty all the time. Right. So now some people may still think that, but I don't necessarily think that anymore. But I wonder if people still do. So if you're talking to me or somebody who comes in and you start to process them or counsel with them, do you think it's something that is just a spiritual battle that people are having to deal with, or is there something else going on there?
Sure. I mean, that's a great question. And when I look at a person, I look at a person as their whole person. We're body, we're physical beings, we're spiritual beings, and then we have a soul and a personality, and it's all wrapped up in one, and you can't treat one to the exclusion of the other. And what I find almost all the time is several different things factor into depression. Some people are just depressed just because of what you said. That is true. Some people are. Some people, their problem is 100% spiritual sometimes.
Do you ever get into that with people? I mean, do you ever, in a clinical setting, do you kind of try to work with them, or is that something you would outsource?
Usually I outsource that. I might touch on it or maybe offer an opinion that I really think that is a big part of their issue if they elicit those responses to me. I'm not a licensed counselor. I don't have any real formal training in counseling. I just have 20 years of experience. I think people feel comfortable when they come in just unloading with more than strep throat and those type of things. So by default, it's what I've had to do. So I read and study and pray. And so a lot of times what I do is I elicit and I find, this whole depression, anxiety thing is quite a scale too. I mean, it goes 0 to 100. You might be down here at a 1 or a 2 or a 9, or you might be all the way up here at 100. So you have to look at what part of the scale are you on? What are your support systems? What are those? And sometimes the best advice I give somebody is, I need you to go see a counselor. Go see Bonnie. Go talk to the pastor. Go see Ben. And sometimes that's the best advice I give somebody. Yeah.
Depression, I mean, in general, I mean, it's like I don't know how people describe it. Some people describe it like, it's like having a 40-pound monkey on your back all the time, I imagine you get people who come through and just say, I don't know why, I just can't, I don't want to get out of bed,
Yeah.
I just feel bad, but blood work is fine.
Sure.
There's no fever, there's no vomiting, stuff like that.
Sure.
It's just and I imagine that's got to put you in a weird place.
Yeah.
As a clinician, somebody who says something is wrong with me, and it's sometimes you may feel like to say well, you need to go see somebody else, or saying to them, there's nothing physically symptomatic. It's just something else going on. Yeah. Do you think in the medical practice in general? Now, not talking about viruses and stuff like
Sure.
that, but I mean, in terms of, gosh, I don't want to put you in a weird place. I don't know if you can. So just say I can't speak to that. If you
Okay. Okay.
but I mean,
I say that all the time.
I don't know.
Remember, I told you I was Mr. Donette. So.
I guess would be. Do you think that medication for mental disorders is overprescribed?
I think,
It's anecdotal, I guess.
yeah, I think medication for lots of things is overprescribed. That gets really touchy. We humans like the easy way out of things.
Yeah.
So if I have a symptom, we are sort of conditioned and trained to watch the TV. If you have this and this, call your doctor. Why do you call your doctor? Because they're trained to give you a pill.
I've called Alexander Schumacher.
So there you go. So we tend to like to take a pill for things. That's an easy fix.
Yeah.
If I'm depressed or anxious, or if I have high blood pressure or I have diabetes, it's way easier to take a diabetes pill than it is to hear a 30-minute lecture on how you need to start losing weight and exercise and be healthy.
Try giving a 30-minute sermon.
Yeah, right. It's easier for me to say, here, take this pill, than it is to say, I need you to go talk to somebody. The issues you have, we can't deal with in 15 minutes here in the office. You need to go talk to somebody.
That's interesting because it gets into something you were saying earlier before we started recording live, was that you said humans are not just walking pill sacks.
Right.
Which is my new favorite word.
Yeah.
Humans are not walking pill sacks. Yeah, because there's the whole person, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't want to just give a pill for everything. Sometimes it needs more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you, this gets at something because we're created beings, it's fascinating to me because I think if you begin with the premise, so I guess what I'm going to ask is, how does being a Christian impact the way you practice, particularly this side of care? Not necessarily, again, treating strep or an infection that maybe is an important thing to what you do, but I'm curious how your Christianity shapes the way you practice medicine in general. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think in my case, it just helps me have a strong focus on the spiritual aspect of us as beings and how that also impacts us in our lives physically. If you have strep throat, I don't think you need to go home and pray about it. I think you need some penicillin, okay? Yeah. Unless you're allergic. Don't take what you have at home in the medicine cabinet. But a lot of other things, I feel tired, I feel fatigued, I feel those things. I look at you, you're 32, you're really not terribly overweight, your blood pressure's fine. There's no reason for you to have anything major physically going on. So we'll check those things, of course, to be sure that we're not missing something. But then I don't just say, well, you probably just need a pill. I also think, maybe you've got some mental health issues. And I also think about, so what is your spiritual life like? You know, we're a created being, created to have fellowship with God, and if we ignore that part of our life, it affects us.
Yeah.
And so I think you're missing part of the puzzle if you don't address that in some way.
Yeah, and it seems like if you approach the human being like we are and evolved, we emerged from the protoplasm of billion-year history.
Yeah.
Then it does seem like you would see the human being as just a collection of gas and chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you can tinker with it enough
Mm-hmm.
in the right layers, then the right amounts or whatever, then you can get this machine working the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I would think as a Christian, the approach may be slightly different because you're acknowledging this imprint of an eternal soul that also has an interplay with the physical life.
Right.
So I think David, Psalm 32, he says, when I didn't confess my sin, my body wasted away.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly he was saying, there's something about my spiritual condition that is having a dramatic impact on my physical well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, we could go on, but let me turn to a different subject. So again, we're in a fearful time.
Right.
Where
Mm-hmm.
you deal with depression, anxiety on a clinical scale the way I never will. What do you think are some good, I would imagine you would say there is some sort of chemistry to
Mm-hmm.
depression,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yes.
it's not all just like,
Right,
well, I
correct.
hadn't been sleeping and I kicked my dog the other day and I've been feeling bad about it.
Right,
But there is a chemical.
Right.
So maybe could you speak to that a little bit? Like, how does that work in the brain? Or
Well, we know there are mediators in our brain. There are actual chemicals like serotonin and norepinephrine in the brain that sort of help us. If something makes me afraid, or if something makes me fearful, or something makes me anxious, one, I don't discount that because emotions were given to us by God. But when our emotions and feelings begin to make our lives such that we can't function on a day-to-day basis, then it's certainly way out of balance. And sometimes what happens is those chemicals, because of too much stress, are overused or not used enough, or they're too active. And so medications can go in to help augment those chemicals or block those chemicals to some degree, whatever needs to be happening to help bring things down. I like to tell patients, listen, I can give you enough medicine to make you a zombie where you won't feel anything. Nothing will bother you. If a bomb goes off next to you, just shrug your shoulders and go, no big deal. I can do that, but that's not how people live and how they should live. So the goal is to give you enough medicine, if that's what you need, to bring it down to the level that you still feel, but you're able to more accurately process those feelings. So when somebody makes you mad with just the least little thing, you don't just have an absolute come apart and go off. You're able to say, yeah, that made me mad, that ticked me off, which is normal, but I'm not going to lose my mind over it now.
And I think it's important what you said earlier, like fear, anxiety, anger,
Mm-hmm.
like these are part of the human experience.
Sure,
Right? Those
sure.
are not wrong or terrible emotions. It's just wrong to stay there. Right?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
If it kind of takes
Yeah.
over in the driver's seat, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
As a clinician, your goal is, I would assume, your goal is never to leave people indefinitely on a medicine. Is that fair? Or,
Yeah,
some people, I guess, have,
there are occasions some people need to be on medicine for a long term. Maybe, we're imperfect bodies.
Yeah.
Every part of us is imperfect. And, thanks to the fall, none of us are perfect. And sometimes some people take medicine all their life. For some people, they just need short term and then maybe some counseling and some other things to do, and they are able to. And I like to give people that hope. I say, hey, if we have to be on medicine long term, it's okay, we can. But if with counseling and other interventions in your life, it may be that this is to help you through that period, and as those things get better, we can see about weaning off the medicine, and that works often also. So.
I think that's really important too, because I think people get lopsided about the way their life should be. Like people say, well, I just want a normal life. And I mean, what's normal? I mean, like you said, like
yeah,
we're all,
yeah.
the truth is we're all kind of broken,
Yeah.
right? As you said, like that was wonderful.
Mhm.
As a result of the fall, like, people are on, we need, our bodies are broken, they break down, we need help,
Mhm.
and that's a very normal thing.
Mhm.
And I think that's interesting and helpful. Best practices. So, we got to go to clinicians, counselors,
Mhm.
maybe something
Mhm.
like that, which are great. And I actually think the stigma on like counseling has changed.
Yeah.
I think that,
Yeah.
I don't know this, but I feel like when I was younger, and I have no data on this, it just seems to me when I was younger and I heard people going to counseling,
Mhm.
something must really be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now
yeah.
it's almost like, that's just like getting your oil changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just kind of
yeah.
like, a lot of people do it, it's
Mhm.
good for our mental health.
Mhm.
Do you think that's a good thing? I mean, is that?
I think it's a great thing.
I do too.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's actually helpful
Yeah.
that's gone away. And I think people are more open about it.
Mhm.
In my experience, people are open about that kind of thing. I think it's great. I think, why not, if you need it?
Usually a counselor is somebody that's neutral.
Yeah.
They don't have an agenda. It's hard to get counsel sometimes from a family member or a dear friend because the whole time you're talking to them, you're thinking, oh, they're judging me, or they're thinking, or they have this agenda, whereas if it's a counselor, they can be more neutral.
Right.
So sometimes that's very helpful too.
Well, best practices. So
Mhm.
aside from going to like professionals or coming
Mhm.
to see a clinician, you said somebody is in the midst of maybe this little crisis, this
Right.
virus that's going around,
Mhm.
they're worried, they're nervous. What are some things you would recommend people do? We're already being isolated
Right.
around our family
Sure.
members, maybe more than we ever wanted to be.
Sure.
And we have to work from home. Some people aren't working.
Right.
The Dow has gone up and down.
Yeah.
People's financial futures are at risk.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on. You know what I mean? It's a weird time. And so, on your side of things, what are some just generally good well-being practices that you would recommend?
Maybe you don't consider this from my side, but for me personally, the thing that is, because I don't know how people, it's kind of like, I don't know how non-believers do funerals.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know how people go through this without an understanding that, God is in control. We don't know. We don't know what this virus is going to do. We don't know how many people are going to be affected. We don't know the level that they'll be affected. We don't know what the economy is going to do. We don't know how long we're going to be. There's so much we don't know, but I'm putting my faith and trust in the one who does know,
Mm-hmm.
and he is absolutely in control. And so, to some degree, I just have, well, for me personally, to the most degree, I say, all right, you got this. I don't. This is way bigger than me, or it's way bigger than the government. It's way bigger than the medical experts. It's just bigger than all that. So there's one. That's number one for me. Number two, practically, other things that I think people really need to be focused on doing is, one, doing stuff. Stay out of the news. Don't be in it 24/7. You'll be so confused, you won't know what's up. Pick one or two sources, good, valuable sources. Don't get all your information from Facebook.
Wait a second.
Just get one or two sources. Be informed, but not obsessed. If you're watching 6-8 hours a day of this stuff, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Number two, do something. Take care of yourself. Exercise. You need to be eating healthy. We get depressed. What do? We grab popcorn and snacks. We get the sugar crashes, and we're up and down like this. That makes us feel worse.
You would have a drive-in church.
Yeah.
And one of our church members just confessed that they came to drive-in church and they had a car full of just awesome snacks.
Yeah.
Pizza rolls, Michael's
Yeah.
were eating Skittles.
Yeah.
It's apocalypse food.
I know. Apocalypse food makes you feel worse. So now more than ever, do that. Exercise. Get out and walk. One or two people. Keep your distance. Ride a bike. Ride a stationary bike. Do calisthenics. Do yoga on TV. Do some sort of exercise. Do a hobby. If you don't do anything, do something. I've taken up whittling, carving little
I noticed
caricatures.
your hands look a
So,
little scarred.
Yeah, I haven't cut myself in a while. So, but it's relaxing, it's soothing. But do something.
Yeah. So far, what'd you say? Stay out of the news. Recognize the one who's in control.
Right.
Stay
out of the news.
At least 24/7 news.
Yep. Rest.
Be active.
Rest. Be active.
Rest.
Healthy lifestyle with healthy eating, regular exercise.
Eat well.
Those things are so important right now, even more so now than normal.
It's interesting
I
because
think.
people don't think of those things as spiritual activities. They don't
Yeah.
think of those things always as good activities. But it seems like that is just as you're living with just as much trust in God,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you do those things to take care of this vessel that the Lord's given you. Anything else? Any insights there? Or
Whew.
we'll probably talk a long time about that, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you one more question then.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up. So, again, you're a churchman. You're a Christian, but you're also a Christian who practices medicine. What is your hope for the church? I guess as we go through this sort of thing. I mean, I think the virus is coming. I mean, I'm not a doomsday guy. I just think it's going to make its way around the globe in some way.
Yeah.
Whether it happens in 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, this thing's going to travel around.
It's got to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're probably going to go through it. The church is going to go through it. It's a difficult thing. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of things we don't know. We're going to have to deal with it. So, I guess what's your hope for the church as we kind of go through this thing together?
I think my hope for the church, to some degree, is that this is a purge, not a purge of people, but a purge of us from our complacency and our reliance on tradition and being comfortable all the time. We've been so comfortable for so long. I had, just before all this started, we were going to start going through a book that I had read called Something's Gotta Change by David Platt. I mean, just started it. We were going to have our first Bible study a couple weeks ago and didn't get to do that. But I thought how timely that, we hear so much, the church is broken, But I'm mindful of the fact that doesn't mean that this building is broken, because the church is us. It's you and me. So if I say the church is broken, what I'm saying is I'm broken. So maybe this is a pause. Maybe this is a bit of a reset for me to see, if I want to say the church is broken, then I'm the one that needs to be fixed. I don't need to worry about fixing you. I got to fix me. And so I think as we have time and we pause and reflect and we ask God, what are you teaching me now? How are you in control now? Change me, use me, show me that when we come through the other side, we will be more Christ-like. Maybe we will see, you know what, so many things I got so worked up over before. Once I wasn't able to do them, I realized they really weren't as important as I thought they were. Here's what I need to be focusing on now. And if our focus is on Him and on our relationship with Him, then that fixes so many other relationships.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what I hope.
Yeah, good. So book recommendation is Something Needs to Change.
Something Needs to Change by David Platt.
By David Platt. You got time. Encourage you to read that one. And one other discipline you did not mention for battling coronavirus is good, healthy beard growth. And so,
yes,
ladies, gentlemen, we want to recommend you to let your whiskers go.
Yeah.
And
if I can get that mustache about another half an inch right there, I got a 24/7 mask right there.
Here, ear here, bring it on.
Yeah.
It's all good.
That's right.
You may look nasty, but you won't get sick.
That's right. That's right.
Well, hey man, thanks for joining us. Thanks for this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's a little different take, but I think it'd be helpful going forward. And so, anyway, I'll give you the last word. Anything else you got?
Listen, I just hope and pray that this just draws us as a church, me, my family, your family, Lee's family, behind the camera back there, that it just draws us closer to Christ. And when we come out of this thing, that we just are so in love with Him that it just explodes on the scene. We just explode on the scene with
That's so good.
with the love of Christ. So
that's awesome. Well, man, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Lord willing, this will go well. Again, next Sunday we'll be back. Check us out again at fbcjackson.net. You can follow us on Facebook. We have a new YouTube channel, and we'll be providing a lot of other opportunities for you to follow along. If you would like to discuss certain topics, maybe again comment in the comment section under the Facebook feed. If you'd like to hear on listen or hear about certain subjects, let us know, because we'll be putting these together. This is for you. It's a training opportunity for you, so we want to make it as helpful as we can. And let us know if you liked it, because we're looking to try to make this time as helpful to you as possible. So, hey, again, thanks for watching, Tim. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks.
And,
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we'll do it
Enjoyed
again.
it.
Thanks a lot.